الله. الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستهديه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا ومن سيئات أعمالنا. من يهده الله فهو المهتدي ومن يضلل فلا هادي له. أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبده ورسوله. يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. يا أيها الناس اتقوا ربكم الذي خلقكم من نفس واحدة وخلق منها زوجها وبث منهما رجالا كثيرا ونساء واتقوا الله الذي تساءلون به والأرحام إن الله كان عليكم رقيبا. أما بعد فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله خير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. شر الأمور محدثاتها كل محدثة بدعة كل بدعة ضلالة كل ضلالة في النار. Tonight inshallah will be a special night and a special lecture, and you'll know the reason inshallah at the end. Just very quick, going back to the previous lecture at the end of it, since it's connected with this lecture of tonight. We said that Ibn Qudam rahimahullah mentioned the 6 similarities between al-atiyya and al-wasiyya, between al-atiyya, between a gift, and al-wasiyya, and the will. And just very quickly I go over them. قال رحمه الله حكمها حكم وصيته في 6 أحكام. لا تجوز لأجنبي بزيادة عن الثلث. That you cannot give to a foreigner. Foreigner means here someone who does not inherit. Someone who does not inherit. So you cannot give al-wasiyya, cannot be to someone more than the third. Okay? If he's someone who can inherit, it's haram even to write him in the will. But if he's someone who would not inherit from you, you can write him in your will that to give him X amount of money or an area or property or whatever, but that cannot exceed 1/3 of what you're leaving behind. That is one of the similarities between wasiyya, the will, and a gift while you're dying. Remember, we're talking about during the time of your death. Yani while you're dying, you're in death sickness. Okay, because al-atiyya, or the gift at the time of your, while you're dying, your last days, it's considered will. Okay, it's considered a will, and it carries the same rulings as the will. So in your life, during your healthy life, you can give away everything you have. Okay, but while you're dying, for sickness or whatever, then the gift has or takes becomes similar to the will. So you are controlled by the rules of the will. Okay, if you know you're dying, even the ulama said, even the woman during her laboring, when she's giving birth, she cannot give a gift or give away more than 1/3 of her wealth, because there is a high probability she might die. And we mentioned the other sicknesses, serious sicknesses. So that is where the similarities we are talking about. While you're in your last days, or you're in very severe death, or as they said you're in the middle of the ocean and there's a big storm, okay, or you're in a plane and now the pilot says we're gonna crash, okay, so make your last prayers or whatever. So during these times you cannot give more than 1/3. Alright, so the first thing is you cannot give more than 1/3, or write in your will more than 1/3 for someone who does not inherit you. And the second, الحرية تجتمع في بعض العبيد بالقرعة إذا لم يفي الثلث بالجميع. if he gives well, and it's let's say this has to talk about slavery, we don't need to be concerned about. We also talked about the issue of al-qur'ah. These points talk about slavery. If he frees or if he says after my death one of my slaves is free, and he does not specifically mention the name, then it's by the draw to see which one. okay? Or if he says 3 are free, but 3 slaves exceed 1/3 of his wealth, okay? Then we take only 1/3 and we do a draw between them. Also أنه يعتبر خروجها من الثلث حال الموت. We said that when is it considered a third? It all has to do at the time of death. Okay? Not at the time when he wrote the will. Not at the time a week or 2 weeks later after his death. No. When he dies, we see how much money he left behind, and then we see, is the will more than the third or less than the third? Okay? Yani the will can be less than the third. Okay? And then after his funeral, and they spend on his funeral and pays his debt, now it's more than 1/3. Okay? So the hikmah is at the time of the death. So it's very important. That is a point. When do we determine if it's a third more or less? At the time of his death. Also أن كونه وارثا يعتبر حالة الموت فيهما فلو أعطى أو أوصى له ولا ولد له فولد له ابن صحت العطية والوصية. We also mentioned that if you in your will you say this is or $10,000 for my brother, and your brother, because you don't have any kids, inherits you. Okay, so you cannot write him in the will. You cannot give a will for someone who can inherit you. But you wrote that in your will, and before you died, you got a baby, a son. Then now your brother is blocked. Okay, so now your brother does not inherit, so the will becomes valid for him. All right, so that is also applies to both similar. Also the opposite. If you write your brother, someone doesn't inherit because you have a son. So you write in the will 10,000 to my brother. Now because he's not one of the people who inherit you, one of the heirs, then he gets it because you have a son. But let's say your son dies before your death. Now you don't have kids, so your brother becomes an heir, becomes warith. So this way he is not qualified for the will anymore. Got it? وأنه لا يعتبر رد الورثة وإجازتهم إلا بعد الموت فيهم. Also, يعني all these rulings, you cannot give more than 1/3. An inheritor cannot be part of the will. Okay, you cannot say my son gets this amount. No, by the law of Allah, he gonna get. So you cannot write him in the will. Okay. So the bottom line is, if you come and you're dying and you tell your kids or your people who are going to inherit you, you tell them, listen, I want this house to go to my son. So they tell you, okay. Okay? Now, all these ahkam, if they are approved by the inheritors, it's okay. Okay? Because all these ahkam to preserve the rights of the heirs, of the waratha. So when the Shara says no more than 1/3, now if someone writes a will of 2/3, can we still get it through? The way we can get it through is by gathering all the waratha, all the people who inherit, and tell them, so and so who died wrote in his will 2/3 goes to masjid. If they all approve, it's okay. All right? If they all approve, then it's okay. So the bottom line is, with this issue, their approval or their rejection does not count before his death, only count after he dies. Because they might agree out of embarrassment. And he's dying, their father, and he tells them, listen, I want you to give this house to my son. Now his son gonna inherit him, so he's not qualified to receive it. And we said if you want to give your kid, you have to be fair. So they tell him, okay, but out of embarrassment. So when he dies, they say, you know, we said it just so we don't upset him, but we really don't agree. That's what counts. All right? Because it wasn't a fair distribution. Wasn't a fair gift. Because we said when you give a gift to a son, you have to be fair between your kids. All right? So it's very, very important. So these are some of the similarities between الوصية والعطية. Now he goes on to talk about the differences between الوصية and العطية, between the will and the gift. قال المؤلف رحمه الله: وتفارق العطية الوصية في 4 أحكام، أحدها أن العطية تنفذ من حينه. Now there are 4 differences between the gift and the will. And the first difference, العطية تنفذ من حينه. العطية, the gift, goes through right away. يعني if I give you a gift, if I say you have 1,000, I want Muhammad to have $1,000. A gift, he will get it right away. Okay? But al-wasiyya, if I write in my will, Muhammad gets $1,000, that's after my death. So that is one of the differences between the gift and that. Wasiyya tanfud, yani only after death. Then he gives you an example. He said أنه لو أعتق عبدا أو أعطاه إنسانا صار للمعطى صار المعتق حرا لأنها تنفذ من حينها والمعطى يملكه وكسبه له لأنه تملكه. So يعني he gives the example. If someone gives a gift, a slave man, to someone, so once I get this, or the person who's receiving the gift, once he gets the slave man, becomes his. And what the slave man produces is his. Okay? So these are examples when there was slavery, yani. So that is the point. But with the will, that comes after the death. وَلَوْ وَصَّ بِهِ أَوْ دَبَرَ, يعني if he wills, if he says in the will, so and so takes this, or he makes it conditional by his death. So he says, so in my will, I also, I give in my will, I write in my will, so and so gets this person, slave person. Or he says, so and so gets this slave person after my death. That's the same thing. Okay? That is the same thing. So this point, the gift goes through right away. He receives it right away. The will, we have to wait until the person who is making the will dies. قال وما كسب أو حدث فيه نماء منفصل فهو للورثة. I say, for example, in my will, this factory or this herd of camels is for Muhammad after my death. So Muhammad gets everything. However, since the time I write the will until my death, whatever these camels produced, okay, if they reproduced, if they made business, you use them to make money, all that goes to the heirs, not to the person who's in the will. Alright? That belongs to the waratha. Heirs is waratha. Goes to the waratha. The second difference, أن العطية يعتبر قبولها وردها حين وجودها كعطية الصحيح. When you give someone a gift, he has the right to accept it or to reject it. Okay? And that's valid right there. Remember with the wasiyya, we said the acceptance and rejection is valid when? After the death. With the gift, it's valid on the spot. So if someone who's dying and calls me over and he says, I like you, I want to give you my car as a gift. If I say no, it's valid. If I say yes, it's valid. We don't have to wait until he dies. But if he writes in his will, okay, if he writes in his will that my car goes to so and so, then after his death we come and we ask so and so, you want it or you don't want it? But before, he might say yes, but he knows that the money of this person is not halal, for example. So he tells him yes, just not to upset him. Then after his death, he doesn't want anything to do with it. Got it? Okay? So With the gift, it counts on the spot. Yani whenever he gives, you can reject it or accept it, It's up to you on the spot before his death. But with the will, it has to do after death. The third, أنها تقع لازمة لا يملك المعطي الرجوع فيها والوصية له الرجوع فيها متى شاء. Once I give someone gift and he collects it, I have no right to take it back. Okay? We said where it's if you give someone a gift and he takes it, then it becomes haram to take it back. But if you tell someone, I will give you, if you tell someone, I will give you a gift, but you never give it, in 2 days or in 3 days, you can change your mind. Okay? You can change your mind. But once he collects it, it's his. You have no right to take it back. In one exception. There's one exception. Who remembers?
Your father.
Huh?
The father from the son.
Yes. Only the father has the right to take back his gift from his son. After he collects it. After the son takes it. Only the father. Because your son and what belongs to him belongs to you. So only with the exception of the father, with his son, no one has the right to take back his gift once it's collected by the given person. So with the gift, you cannot change your mind once he takes it. With the will, you can. Today I write my will, tomorrow I change it. After tomorrow I change it. Okay? And all that has to do because it's not through until you die. Okay? So the person did not have a hand on it yet. Because in your life you can change it, but no one will come after your death say, let's change our father's will. It doesn't work like that.
But for discipline, if you take somebody's back.
If what?
For discipline, if you take a gift back for discipline. Let's say you have a small kid and he's not working. He's not behaving well. You give him a computer. He's abusing it.
And you're taking it back temporarily. للأدب يعني. This is different scenario where you take it back not to possess it. Okay? You're taking it back to teach him a lesson. That is different than what we're talking. Here we're talking about taking something you're given to repossess, like repo, repossessing. Here with the kids, you're gonna hold it back. You're not taking it back. Okay? So if we say once you give your son a gift, you cannot hold it back or control it, then we're in trouble. Alright? We are in trouble because now we're gonna have some clash and some conflicts. Alright? Here we're talking about giving someone a gift, because we said a gift similar to sadaqah. Once he collects it, it becomes his own. Okay? For you to take it back, you don't have the right. And second thing, to your question, you're the father. It's the exception. Even if you want to take it away from him.
You brought his brother.
Ya salam alayk. Now he's a brother. Okay? Alright. If this brother is your responsibility to be raising, okay, and you're responsible and you see that what you gifted him as harmful, then you need to take action. Okay? If his raising and his responsibility falls over you. The fourth difference أن يبدأ بالأول فالأول منها إذا ضاق الثلث عن جميعها والوصية يسوي بين الأول منها والآخر. With the gift, okay, you give as people come. Okay, that's why he says يبدأ بالأول فالأول إذا ضاق الثلث عن جميعها. You want to give gifts to a certain number of people, but giving them the gift now, this is during your death, while you're dying. But these gifts, if you want to give everyone, let's say 10 people, if you want to give each one a gift, that consumes more than 1/3 of your wealth. So what is the solution? The solution is you give people one by one. So once you reach the point where it's the third or you're not exceeding the third, you stop. So one by one. With the will, it's divided, it's distributed equal. Okay? So for example, you say Ahmed and Muhammad and Ali and Ibrahim get $10,000. So we're going to take the $10,000 and distribute them equal. Okay? But if you say Ahmed and Muhammad gift each one $5,000, then you start coming five. But if I give 5, 5, 5, 5, that is half of my wealth, half of his wealth. Okay? So we're going to go Ahmed 5, 5. Once we get to the point where third is distributed, we're stopping. That's why he's saying بالأول فالأول يعني الأسبق, who comes first, يعني first come first serve. Okay, that's with the gift. With the will, it's distributed between them. قال ويدخل النقص على كل واحد بقدر وصيته سواء كان في عتق أو أم لم يكن وكذلك الحكم في العطاء إذا وقع دفعة واحدة. That is يعني when we talk about distributing equally. Here he says وكذلك الحكم في العطاء إذا وقع دفعة واحدة. In العطاء, that's the exception, because we said with the will it's distributed equal. With العطاء it's first come first serve, يعني the one who comes first, unless he says all of it, يعني a whole amount for those 4 people. Okay? So for example, if he says 5,000 for Ahmed and 5,000, that's a gift, not in his will, but while he's dying. 5,000 for Ahmed, 5,000 for Muhammad, 5,000 for Mahmud. Those 15,000, half of his will. So first comes Ahmed, because the gift takes effect right away. So comes Ahmed, we give him 5,000. Comes Muhammad, we give him the next 5,000. To this point, it's 1/3. So when Mahmud comes, we don't give him anything. But if Mahmud came first, we give him the 5,000. Okay? He's saying, rahimahullah, the exception when you distribute equally is when he says Ahmed and Muhammad and Mahmud, we're going to give them 15,000. So if he says one time, yani this amount for all of them, then we're going to say it's not who comes first now. Yes, the 15,000 consumes more than 1/3, it's 1/2. So we take what's 1/3 and then distribute it on the 3. Yes. Okay? Because he said this amount for such, but he did not say this gift for Ahmed, this gift for Muhammad. Okay? That is where he says العطاء إذا وقع دفعة واحدة. Kitab al-Wasaya. So now these are the differences. Now we'll talk about the chapter of the will. Okay? Wasiyya. Chapter of the will, and this is يعني has many ahkam. So inshallah we'll try to go a little quick, but if you don't understand, stop us. وصية في اللغة مأخوذة من وصيت الشيء إذا وصلت. Okay? وصيت الشيء إذا وصلت. In language, الوصية comes from connection. Okay? It's a connection, and the reason it's called وصية has this meaning is because it connects what's before death to after death. Okay? So if you say وصيت الشيء, which is using the verb of الوصية that comes out of الوصية, وصيت يعني I connect. So the reason وصية called وصية because it connects between before death, what I write before death, to what comes after death. Okay? So that is the language. وفي اصطلاح الفقهاء الأمر بالتصرف بعد الموت أو التبرع بالمال بعد. وصية in Islamically يعني in Sharia is to leave an order. Okay? To leave an order to be executed after your death. That's it. Or to donate money after your death. Okay? That is wasi. It's a donation you make after your death. Alright? Now what is a better donation? Before your death or after your death? Before? Why? Huh? Say it. I want to hear from you. No. Huh?
Because you're going to give, when you die, you're going to give all you have, because you know you're going to die. When you live, you're going to give all your knowledge.
Okay. As the Prophet ﷺ was asked, what is the best sadaqah? He said, the best sadaqah, أنت صحيح شحيح. When you're healthy, you still have hope, and you still have access, and you still have strength to use the money, and you're afraid of being poor, so you hold the money. So to be able to give away, that takes courage. But when you're dying, you're giving, you're leaving anyway. Okay, you want more with Allah, so you don't care. Okay, so that's why the sadaqah before, when you're healthy, is better than when you're sick. Alright, so you're paying attention. Very good. Alright, so الأمر بالتصرف بعد الموت. To leave يعني an order to be executed after your death. We said it can be donation, but it really can be many other things. You can write in your wasiyah who you want to bury you. You can write in your wasiyah who you want to wash you. You can write in your wasiyah to your family to fear Allah. You can write in your wasiyah who you want to take care of your kids, who you want to take care of the wealth of your little kids, okay? Who you want to take care of the marriage of your daughters. So many things you can write in the wasiyah, okay? But mainly people think about the money and how to be distributed. قال المؤلف رحمه الله روي عن سعد قال قلت يا رسول الله قد بلغ بي الجهد ما ترى الجهد وأنا ذو مال ولا يرثني إلا ابنة لي فتصدق بثلثي مالي قال لا قلت فالشطر قال لا قلت فالثلث قال الثلث والثلث كثير إنك إن تدع ورثتك أغنياء خير من أن تدعهم عالة يتكففون الناس. So he says this hadith, Ibn Qudama mentioned this hadith as a dalil on wasiyah. Okay, so Sa'id ibn Abi Waqqas, one of the 10 Mubashirin bil Jannah, or the 10 given the tidings of paradise, and one of two people that the Prophet ﷺ told him فداك بأبي وأمي. يعني this is an expression in Arabic that يعني I'm willing to give away, to sacrifice my parents for you. Okay, it's an expression, but that to show how much you love the person. And the Prophet ﷺ used this expression. You alright?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Yeah.
I left my car keys in my pocket. For cars I can't get out.
طيب, who's blocking you?
No, I'm blocking for people where I live. I have the car keys in my pockets.
So the Prophet ﷺ used this expression with two people. That's it. One of them, Sa'd. Who's the other?
Zayd.
لا. لا.
The day of Uhud.
طيب, homework. It's more famous for Sa'd, but there's one other Sahabi that the Prophet ﷺ used this expression. Anyway, so Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas tells the Prophet ﷺ, he was a rich man. He tells him, Ya Rasulullah, you see that I'm getting old, okay, and tired, sick, and I only have one daughter, and I want to give away some of my wealth. Leave her some, but I want to give some. So he asked the Prophet, should I give 2/3? So the Prophet ﷺ told him no. So he said, what's about the half? The Prophet ﷺ said, no. Then he said, what's about the 1/3? he sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, third is fine, or third, وَالثُّلُثُ كَثِيرٌ. Yani third is fine, but still too much. Now this statement, still too much, has rulings out of it. And you deduce a lot of ahkam out of this. But that's what the Prophet ﷺ, he told him third, and that's still much. But he allowed him with the third. That's why we will see what the ulama said. What is the best percentage of your wealth to leave as sadaqah? And in your wealth to be given to the poor. We will talk about that. And no, it's not the third. So, and the reason they said it's not the third, because the Prophet ﷺ said, and that's too much, or still much. In one riwayah, Prophet ﷺ, or at the end of this hadith, the Prophet ﷺ tells Sa'id, it's to leave your kids or the people you're responsible about rich and sufficient, better than to leave them poor, begging people. Okay? You know, I remember an incident when I was in college, in dental school, and I always had this idea that I'm not leaving anything behind when I die. Whatever I have, it's gone, because I don't want to be responsible about how the people who are going to inherit me are going to spend it. And that does not change until you have a kid. All right? Until you have a kid. And now you start thinking, do I leave them begging people or under the mercy of people, or I leave them with enough to take care of themselves? So here the advice of the Prophet ﷺ, it's better to leave your kids with some money, and they're most worthy of it, than to leave them poor, asking people. In one riwayah, the Prophet ﷺ said, وَلَعَلَّكَ تَخْلُفُ فَيَنْتَفِعُ بِكَ أَقْوَامٌ وَيُضَرُّ بِكَ آخَرٌ. The Prophet ﷺ tells Sa'd, after all that, and perhaps you're going to live long, and many people will benefit from you, and many people will be harmed by you. What happened with Sa'd? On his hand, yani by the will of Allah, in Qadisiyah, was the destruction of Persia and the spread of Islam to that land, to Iraq. The conqueror of Iraq was in the leadership in Ghazwat Ma'arak al-Qadisiyah, and Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas was in charge, the leader. So he destroyed Faris. The Persian Empire was destroyed on the hands of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas and his army. So Islam spread, and they benefit a lot of people, and a lot of people were harmed. And that was the kuffar of Persia. So all this you see today, the Shia and all that, this has nothing to do with the religion. Take it from me. These are people who are striving to revive the Persian Empire. Yes, without any doubt. And just a small quiz to do when you see an Iranian, okay, and you ask him what he is, he's not going to say Muslim. He's not going to say Iranian. He's not going to say Shia. He's going to tell you, I'm Persian. I'm Persian. So as being a smart Muslim, you tell him, but Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas destroyed Persia. So where you come from, Persian? There's no such thing. And then from that moment, he'll never talk to you. Alright? That's how you find them. And I had a lot of experience with them, because where I went to school, dental school, for some reason they love Shia. They love Iranian Shia. A class of 100, 10% will be Shia, at least 10%. They love them. And you will find them, those are Muslims supposedly, you will find them celebrating every single Persian holiday on the calendar. But Eid al-Adha passed, they don't even. Eid al-Fitr passed, they have no clue. And one time I confronted one of them, a girl, who sent an email, the celebration of the spring holiday, what is it, they call it, the Nowruz? Nowruz? Yeah, which is they celebrate the spring, it's a new year for them, right? So I asked her, I said, I never seen you send an email about Eid al-Adha or Eid al-Fitr. And you're Muslim. She said, no, my grandparents are Muslim. My parents and me are not. We're nothing. I said, indeed, you're nothing. You know? So they are people who celebrate and who are proud, and that is what they're trying to get back. They're trying to get back Persia and Faris. That's why the people detest and hate a man named Umar bin Khattab. Why? Because he was the Khalifa when Persia was destroyed. It has nothing to do with any, they all use the excuses and Fatima and this and Khilafah. It really had nothing to do, because he destroyed their empire. And the people are loyal to Persia before anything, before Islam. And this brother here who lived in Emirat, he can tell you. And a lot of them are there. A lot of them who have no idea what's going on. But those who act and who live with the aqidah, their corrupted aqidah, that's what they believe. Okay? So we need to learn more and be aware. والوصية تدور عليها الأحكام الخمسة. When it comes to الوصية, when we say الأحكام الخمسة or the 5 rulings, we mean واجب, مستحب, مباح or جائز, makruh and haram. Okay? Those are الأحكام الخمسة, the 5 rulings. Anything in this life, it can be one of those. واجب, مستحب, recommended, واجب يعني obligatory, recommended, مستحب, جائز, مباح, permissible, makruh, not recommended, and haram, forbidden. And wasiyah can be any one of those. It depends on what wasiyah you're writing. Okay? Can be any of those. It can be wajib when, if you are writing in your will money to go to the right people, that they are entitled to that money. For example, you owe Ahmed $1,000, and no one knows about that. It's not written up. There is no documents. There is no there is no witnesses. Okay, so you're obligated to write in your will, I owe Ahmed $1,000. Give it to him after my death. You're obligated. So in this scenario, the wasiyah is wajib. It's wajib. Or I took money from so and so, and I owe him this amount, give it to him. Yani your debt, what you owe to people. Okay? So that's wajib. Mustahab, it's recommended. Yani you leave, let's say, a third, sudus, a sixth, a fifth. You leave it for the poor. That is mustahab. No one tells you have to write in your will to give money to the poor. But if you do it, it's recommended. Usually it's mustahab if the way the money is being spent is usually something mustahab. Okay? That is mustahab. وتكون وصية حرام if forbidden to write something for الورثة, for the heirs, the inheritors. You can't write them anything, so it's haram to write them and to give them something if they're gonna inherit you. It's not recommended if you leave wasiyah to a poor person, and there is a poor person who's related to you, does not receive inheritance, but he's related to you and poor. It's not recommended to write a will for someone else who's not related to you, who's poor. In other words, it's better to write your will to the poor of your family who do not inherit you, because not every member of your family will inherit you. So those who do not inherit you, they are more worthy for you, more deserving to write them in your will than a poor person who's away from you, who's far, not related to you. تباح الوصية في حق من ترك خيرا في أمر مباح. Okay, if you leave wasiya for something permissible, for the money to be used in something permissible, then wasiya is permissible. If you leave wasiya to be spent in something recommended, then wasiya is recommended. Also, makruh, it's not recommended to leave a wasiya and your inheritors are poor. You're leaving $10,000 and you say, I have the right to give away, to write my will 1/3, and your kids and your wife and your family who are going to inherit you are poor themselves. So here you take away 1/3 from them to give it to some. They're more worthy. So the way I said, the relatives who don't inherit more worthy of your will, also your relatives who inherit more worthy to leave them everything, especially if what you're leaving is not much. Alright? So as the Prophet ﷺ said, to leave them sufficient better than to leave them poor, because 1/3 can make a big difference if the amount is little. But if the amount is in the millions, 1/3 will not make a difference. So very important. So in this scenario, then it's not recommended that you write a will, period, to give away some of them. قال أهل العلم ويستحب للموصي أن يكتب وصيته. It's recommended to write your will. Some of the ulama said it's wajib, but the correct opinion is that it's recommended that you write your will. في الحديث البخاري المسلم يقول النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم ما حق امرئ مسلم يبيت ليلتين إلا وصيته مكتوبة عنده. قال ابن عمر ما بت ليلة بعدما سمعت النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم يقول هذا الحديث إلا وصيتي مكتوبة عند رأسي. So the Prophet صلى الله عليه وسلم said a Muslim should not, or a believer should not go to bed for more than 2 nights without his will written already. Okay? And the ulama took that as mustahab. قال أنس رضي الله عنه إنهم كانوا يكتبون في صدور وصايا. Anas said, describing how they used to write their wasiyah, they used to write in the beginning of their wasiyah هذا ما أوصى به فلان ابن فلان وهو يشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وأن محمدا عبده ورسوله وأن عيسى عبد الله ورسوله وأن الساعة لا ريب فيها وأن الله يبعث من في القبور. This is the will of so and so. If you're the one writing the will, this is the will of your name. You write your name, who bear witness or testify La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah and Isa Abdullah wa Rasuluh, and it's the day of judgment is coming, and all that, to testify that you are Muslim inshallah and dying in Islam. وأوصي من أترك من أهلي, and they used to write, that's Anas saying, and I advise whoever I leave from my family behind me, whomever I leave, to fear Allah. Okay? And sometimes they write not to rip the clothes, and not to slap their faces, and not to cry loud, and not to weep. All these things, as the Prophet said, from Jahiliyyah, you want to make sure that you advise your family not to do it, and you have to teach them while you're alive. The hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, where he said, إِنَّ الرَّجُلَ لَيُعَذَّبُ إِنَّ الْمَيِّتَ لَيُعَذَّبُ بِبُكَاءِ أَهْلِهِ, that the dead person is punished for the crying of his family, is punished in the grave for the crying of his family. So of course the ulama have many opinions, but Allahu A'lam, the closest, some of the ulama said that is if he did not teach them, his family, that they should not cry. Of course the crying, we're talking about crying out loud, okay, and crying and weeping and all that, but crying with silence and tears, that is natural, and the Prophet did that. But when you cry out loud, the wives, the kids, that is something you should advise your kids and your wife and your daughters not to do, and your family, and remind them of this hadith. And also some of the ulama said, and some people tell their families to cry out loud when they die. And they said that is what the hadith applied to, because Aisha said, وَلَا تَزِرُ وَازِرَةٌ وِزْرَ أُخْرَى. And why he going to be punished for something he did not do? It's not his responsibility that they cried loud. So that's where the ulama took the other meanings. And he should be concerned what he writes, make it clear, make the wording clear, his advice, his recommendation, his orders very clear, it's not ambiguous, and he should ask the people of knowledge when he's about, so there will be no disputations amongst the inheritors. قال العلماء إن الأفضل لمن أراد أن يوصي بمال ألا يستوعب الثلث. The ulama said it's better, whoever wants to write his will regarding his money, to give away some of his money, it's better that he does not order for a third. يستوعب الثلث. We know it's haram to write more than 1/3, but they said it's better not to reach the third, to be less. Because why? Because the Prophet ﷺ told Sa'd, 1/3 is fine, but still too much. So they said the fact that the Prophet ﷺ said still too much, that means it's not the best. Okay, it's not the best to write and to tell them to give more, to give a third, complete third away. But what is the best? في الصحيحين عن ابن عباس قال لو أن الناس غضوا من الثلث فإن النبي صلى الله عليه وسلم قال الثلث والثلث كثير. Ibn Abbas رضي الله عنه said, it would be better for the people to give less than the third, because the Prophet ﷺ said third, and that is still too much. A lot of Ahl al-Ilm, they said the best is the 1/5, 1/5. Okay, best is 1/5. And their dalil is, they said Abu Bakr radiallahu anh left the 5th, and he said قال رضيت بما رضي الله به لنفسه. He said, I'm satisfied with what Allah has accepted for himself. Okay, he's satisfied and he accepts the 5th, and that is what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has accepted for himself. What he means, that he's referring to وَاعْلَمُوا أَنَّمَا غَنِمْتُم مِّن شَيْءٍ فَأَنَّ لِلَّهِ خُمُسَهُ. Because in the ayah in the Anfal, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, and know that your bounties of war, whatever you get out of bounties of war, know that 1/5 of it for Allah. So he used this dalil to think that 1/5 will be the best, and a lot of the Sahaba followed with that. عن علي بن أبي طالب أنه قال لأن أوصي بالخمس أحب إلي من أن أوصي بالربع. Ali ibn Abi Talib said, to leave, to write my will with 1/5 is better than to leave it with 1/4, and 1/5 is lesser, as you know. وعن العلاء بن زياد قال أوصى أبي أن أسأل العلماء أي الوصية أعدل فما تتابع عليه فهو وصية قال فتتابعوا على الخمس. One of the ulama, he said, my father told me to ask the scholars what is the best percentage to give away after my death from my wealth. And he told him the most common answer, that's what you do. Okay, that's wasiyah. So he said, I asked the ulama, and the most common was the 5th. So Allahu A'lam, the best to leave or to give to the poor to be sadaqah for you is after your death is the 5th. والأفضل أن يجعل وصيته في أقاربه غير الوارثين. And it's better to give that 1/5 to the poor, the relatives who are poor, your poor relatives. It's better to leave the 5th for your aunts and your uncles, okay, who do not inherit you because you have kids, than to leave it to your neighbors. Okay, so it's best the 5th, and it's better to be for the poor who are related to you, because in this way you get double ajr. the reward of صلة الرحم, of taking care of your kins, and the reward of the يعني الصدقة. ثم قال المؤلف وتصح الوصية والتدبير من كل من تصح هبته. يعني whoever allowed or qualified to give a gift is qualified to leave a will. We said Muslim, عاقل, بالغ. A Muslim who's wise, who reached the age of puberty, can give a gift. Didn't take a gift from a child. Doesn't have the right to give away his wealth. Okay, so stuff like that. Whatever conditions for the one who gives a gift applies to the one who gives a hiba, and that is يعني بالغ, reach the age of puberty, العاقل, he's wise, knows what he's doing, حر, he's free, slave cannot do that. قال المؤلف ومن الصبي العاقل, and also it's allowed, the will allowed to be from الصبي العاقل. He did not reach the age of puberty, but his behavior show that he's mature. Okay, some people, some kids 12, 13 did not reach a puberty yet, but the way he carries himself, he has experience, he acts as a mature person, and you might find him more wise than 20 and 30 years old. Okay, so the ulama makes exception for that. والمحجور عليه بسفه. We talked about the person who's يعني in باب الحجر, the person who's لا مفلس is نعم لا, like الحجر, we said sometimes the person doesn't know what he's doing. He has money but he doesn't know what he's doing, so they go and they freeze his money, يعني they freeze his access to his money. Okay, that's الحجر. But if someone who's safi, because he doesn't know what he's doing, they cut his access to his wealth so he doesn't waste it, he writes a will. Is that will valid or not? It is. Why? Because the reason he was disconnected from his wealth, so it will not be wasted. But after his death, because al-wasiyya takes effect after the death, there is no worry about him losing his wealth or not. Got it? Clear?
Despite he made that decision while...
Yes. Okay? Because at the end it will be beneficial to him. Especially if it's a wasiyya, يعني, to take care of the poor. Why? يعني, if he's alive, the wasiyya does not take effect. So he still, even if he comes back to his senses, he still can benefit from his money. And if he dies, and the will is still written, or he did not change his mind, then he's dead. ما يهم. He's safi, he's يعني unwise, and he prevented from having access to his own wealth, okay, to spend it the way he wants in his life, so it's not wasted. But after his death, there is no worry about that. Okay? وَلِكُلِّ مَنْ تَصِحُّ الْهِبَةُ لَهُ. And whoever is qualified to receive a gift can receive a will. قال وَلِلْحَمْلِ إِذَا عُلِمَ أَنَّهُ كَانَ مَوْجُودًا حِينَ الْوَصِيَّةُ لَهُ. If you can write a will to a fetus, يعني a baby in the womb, okay, my sister has a baby, she's pregnant, and I have kids, so I have boys and girls. My sister does not inherit me, and her kid does not inherit me, so I can write in my will, and my sister who's pregnant, her name for her son or her whoever she's going to give birth to gets $1,000, for example. Okay, I can do that. So, but the pregnancy has to take effect at the time of the will. Alright? Very important. قال وتصح بكل ما فيه نفع مباح ككلب الصيد والغنم وبما فيه نفع من النجاسات. Here يعني he mentioned these examples because usually these things يعني are haram. or except some exception. So because he wants to emphasize the point, some things that might be haram, but using the exceptions to make them permissible, you can go with the will. For example, a dog, to have a dog is haram, unless you have him for specific reasons, as the Prophet ﷺ specifies in the hadith. One of them, for al-mashiyah, okay, for you're herding or you're raising an'am, cows, sheep, goats, whatever, and you need a dog to protect them. And that's where the ulama said, if you're allowed to have a dog to protect your goods, then min bab awla, yani you're more worthy to have a dog to protect you. Alright? That's if you need. If you need. Yani you don't go and get a chihuahua and say, he's gonna protect me. That's one thing. Alright? Well, the chihuahua will run away. And second, you're healthy, you can defend yourself. Why do you need a dog? But if you're blind, if you're this, and you don't know, you cannot protect yourself if you're being attacked, that is where يعني they made qiyas. But in general, the Prophet ﷺ didn't say security for yourself. He said for al-mashiyah, okay, for al-sayd, for hunting. Sometimes you hunt and the dog goes to pick it up, to get it for you. That is where the Prophet ﷺ made the exception. أو حرث. Harth yani you can use some animals in harvesting in the farm. So that is also permissible. And of course, even if you have those dogs, not allowed into the house. Okay? And you all know the hadith. So he said it's valid to write your will about things like that. Kalb. Now the kalb is haram to sell or buy. Just for your information. But it's okay to write a will with a dog that will be used for these things. Okay? He mentioned some kind of impurities that are permissible to use in certain situation. So stuff like that, it's okay. قال وبالمعدوم كالذي تحمل أمته أو شجرة. يعني بالمعدوم here he said also to write a will of something that يعني there is very slim chance you're gonna have it. For example, my will is my bird who flew away with the يعني السرب. شو السرب يعني what they call a group of birds, flock of sheep, but the flocks anyway. يعني you have a bird and flew with them, but it belongs to you, so there is no harm to write that bird goes to so and so. Why? Now we say with the thing that you don't have access to, you cannot sell or buy. Okay, things you lost. But here it's okay because there is no harm. If it comes back, well, the will is valid, or it goes through and goes to the person you left. If it doesn't come back, there is no harm. Alright? So that is what they mean. Or he has a tree, he said, whatever this tree produce goes to my friend Ahmed. That's fine. There is no harm, but there is a chance that there will be no fruits from this tree. Remember, we're not allowed to sell what the tree will produce. I cannot come and tell you, I'll sell you what this palm tree will produce this year for $100. We talked about that. That's bay' al-ma'doom. Selling something that does not exist. Because we don't know, is it going to produce or not? But in the will, it's no harm. If it doesn't produce, no harm committed. If it does produce, then beneficial. Because al-wasiyya goes in the category of al-tabarru'at. Okay? Selling and buying goes in a category called al-mu'awadat. Selling and buying and transactions that we've been talking about in a category of exchange. You get something, in return I get something. Al-wasiyya, there is no such thing. Al-wasiyya, it's a complete donation. I write my will, you're gonna get it. I get nothing. Yani the ajr beside the ajr. Okay? So that's why there is no harm with the donations. So there is no harm for me to come to the masjid and say, whatever my business gonna produce this month is a donation for the masjid. There's a chance it's gonna be lost, right? But there is no harm, because the category of donations is يعني more lenient. قال وبما لا يملكه ك100 درهم لا يملكها وبغير معين كعبد من عبيده ويعطيه الورثة منهم ما شاء. And something he doesn't want. Even you can write a will of something you don't know, but doesn't belong to someone else. يعني you said if $100 you're dying and you got nothing. When you write the will, you got nothing. But you write $100 go to Ahmed, $100 go to Muhammad in your will. If you die and you have much money, then no problem. They'll give them away. Okay? Because there is no harm. قال وبمجهول كحظ من ماله أو جزء ويعطيه الورثة ما شاء. Also, to write the will, يعني give something to so and so. Give something to so and so. Then الورثة, okay? Because now it's unknown. What's something? So الورثة, the people who gonna inherit him, يعني they give whatever they want. Alright? So you don't have to specify. Or he has a bunch of slaves and he said, give a slave away after my death, give 2 slaves. Then الورثة can choose whoever they want to give away. The same thing, the same idea. وإن وصى لهم بمثل نصيب أحد ورثته فله مثل أقلهم نصيبا يزاد على الفريضة. يعني if I say in my will, give to so and so what one of my inheritors gonna get, but I don't specify which heir. Okay, let's say I have two boys, 2 girls, and a wife. Okay, and my parents. So all of them gonna inherit. Let's say I write in my will, give what one of my inheritors gonna inherit to Ahmed, and I did not specify who. Then we go and we see who gets the least from the parents and the wife and the kids. Who gets the least share, and that's the amount we give to Ahmed. But if I say whatever my son Muhammad gonna get, you give يعني similar amount to so and so, then that is different. But if I do not specify which inheritors Ahmed gonna get the same share, then we go with the least, because the people who inherits are the most worthy and the most entitled for that money. قال إذا بطلت الوصية أو بعضها رجع إلى الورثة. يعني I write a will and it becomes invalid. It goes back to the heirs. Okay? Then he gives some example. فلو وصى أن يشتري عبد زيد عبد زيد ب100 فيعتق فمات أو لم يبيع سيده فال100 للورثة. يعني the example he used against slaves. So he said, if I write a will, I'm dying, and I write a will that my neighbor has a slave man, but I really like that slave man. He's very nice to me. So I write in my will, buy that slave and free him. He says, buy him for $100 and free him, for example. يعني. So when they come to that after my death, they go to my neighbor and they said, we want to buy your slave. So he said, he's not for sale. Okay? Or we want to buy your slave. He said he died, or I sold him, or he ran away, I don't know where he is, whatever. Then that $100 that he dedicated for that slave goes back to the pot. Okay, goes back to the heirs. Alright. وإن وصى ب100 تنفق على فرس حبيس فمات في الفرس فهي للورثة. Also, if he said $100 to be spent on this horse, فرس الحبيس, يعني they have control, يعني tamed horse, okay, to be taken, horse to use for jihad, whatever. But he specified the horse, and the horse dies. The $100 doesn't go to another horse. It goes to to the heirs. ولو وصى أن يحج عنه زيد ب1000 فلم يحج فهي للورثة. Okay? And فيها خلاف بين أهل العلم. If he said that I want after my death, I want Ahmed to take 1,000 dirham and make hajj on my behalf. Okay? So they go after his death, they go to Ahmed and they tell him, here's 1,000 dirham. Our father wants you to make hajj on his behalf. So Ahmed says, I don't want to go in. I don't want to do it. I don't want to go. Whatever he has excuse. So he refused. So here his opinion is that you take that money and you put it back in the pot that's going to be distributed on the inheritors. But the other opinion, which is the more correct, Wallahu A'lam, is his intent is to get someone to do hajj. He specified the name just, maybe he trusts him more than anyone. So the right thing is that that money still be given to someone to make hajj on his behalf. Okay? And it's qurba, as we said. وإن قال الموصى له أعطوني الزائد على نفقة الحج لم يعطى شيئا. If this Ahmed comes and he said, yeah, he said 1,000 dirham for me to make hajj on his behalf, but you guys know that the hajj costs 300 dirham. That means he wanted to give me 700 dirhams for me. So give me the 700 dirham. Some people لؤمة might act like that. Okay? So such person is not to be given anything, obviously. Alright? But like some people might act like that. ولو مات الموصى له قبل موت الموصي أو رد الوصية ردت إلى الورثة. I say Ahmed gets $1,000 in my will. My will means after my death will be executed, but Ahmed dies before me. So that 1,000 dirham goes to the heirs, my heirs, not Ahmed's. Okay? The will was for Ahmed, not for his kid. ولو وصى لحي وميت فللحي نصف الوصية. ولو وصى لوارثه ولأجنبي بثلث ماله فللأجنبي السدس. Now, here they're telling you, my will, I want Ahmed and Muhammad, Ahmed and Ibrahim to get $1,000. Ahmed dies before him. Ibrahim still alive after his death. Okay? So we take 50% and we give it to Ahmed. And the other 50% goes back to the heirs. ولو وصى لوارثه ولو وصى لوارثه ولأجنبي بثلث ماله فللأجنبي السدس. And if he says 1/3 of my wealth goes to Ahmed and Ibrahim, but Ahmed is someone who inherits him, so he's not qualified. Ibrahim doesn't, so he's qualified. So Ibrahim gets half of the third. That is sudus. And regarding the person, one dies and one doesn't, some of the ulama said, if he knows that he was dead when he wrote the will, he said Ahmed and Ibrahim gets $1,000 and he knows Ibrahim is dead when he wrote that will, then Ahmed gets the whole thing. Because it doesn't make sense to say Ibrahim gets and he knows he's dead. But if he didn't know he was dead, then Ahmed gets half. ويوقف سدس الوارث على الإجازة. Now the other sixth, remember we said if he gives 1/3 for someone who doesn't inherit and someone who inherits, we said the person who doesn't inherit gets 1/6. The other sixth, he's saying we ask the inheritors, do you approve or you don't approve? Do you approve one of you to get 1/6 or you don't? If they say we approve, then he gets 1/6. Because remember, there is no wasiyya liwarith. The one who inherits cannot be part of the will unless the rest of the inheritors approve. Of course, he can approve for himself, but the rest of them, if they approve, then it goes through. Alright? الموصى إليه تجوز الوصية إلى كل مسلم عاقل عدل. الموصى إليه يعني the person who's asked to be in charge of executing the will. Not الموصى له. الموصى له, the person who gonna receive. I say give Ahmed $1,000. Ahmed is موصى له. But الموصى إليه, I say brother Ismail, take care of my will. Distribute it the way it's supposed to. So this person has to be حر, عاقل, wise, adult, mature, okay? The same condition. تجوز الوصية لكل مسلم عاقل عدل. مسلم عاقل يعني wise, sane, عدل, just. يعني you're not afraid he's gonna be inclined for other people. Just to mention أركان الوصية: موصى, موصى به, موصى إليه, والصيغة. The pillars of any wasiyah, of any will, has to have الموصي, the one who writing the will, the one who يعني leaving the money. الموصى به, what he's leaving, what he's telling you to distribute, car, $1,000, this. الموصى إليه, the person who gonna, or له, the person who gonna receive it. I give Ahmed $1,000, so Ahmed موصى له. And الصيغة, يعني what you're writing, the format. Okay, those are the pillars of al-wasiyah. Musa ilay, the one to take care of it, to execute it, is not a rukn. قال المؤلف: تجوز وصية لكل مسلم عاقل عدل من الذكور والإناث بما يجوز للموصى فعله. It's permissible for a male or a female if they are Muslim, wise, just. Okay, and they are. You say, I want so and so to take care of my kids. Has to fulfill those conditions. ثم ذكر المؤلف أمثلة. Then he mentioned examples. What can he do? يعني I give someone the wasiyah. I say so and so take care of it. What can he do? قضاء ديونه وتفريق وصيته والنظر في أمر أطفاله ومتى أوصى إليه بولاية أطفاله ومجانيه ثبتت ولايته عليهم ونفذ تصرف لهم بما لهم فيه من الحظ من البيع والشراء وقبول ما يوهب لهم والإنفاق عليهم وعلى من تلزمهم مؤنته بالمعروف والتجارة لهم ودفع أموالهم بمضاربة بجزء من الربح. So in other words, whatever the person who writes the will can do, the person he's mentioning to take care of his business and his affairs can do. So if I say, Musa ilay, the one I want to take care of my affairs after my death is Ahmed. That means Ahmed can do exactly what I need, what I can do. I have kids, I need to take care of them, he can take care of them. He becomes required to take care of them. Pay my debt, I would pay my debt, he becomes having the authority to do exactly what I would do in my life. Okay? My kids' money, he has the right to use them, to invest them in what will give and benefit my kids. Just the way I would do, he will do. Okay? Stuff like that. And we talked about that when we talked about الحجر يعني. وإن اتجر بنفسه فليس له من الربح شيء وله أن يأكل من مال عند الحاجة بقدر عمله ولا غرم عليه. And if I take the person I say to take care of my affairs, my kids' affairs, for example, he takes their money. If we're gonna leave the money the way it is, every year there's zakah. So zakah gonna eat it away. So he has the right to invest it, so it doesn't decrease. But if he goes and he invests it, and he does his best to invest it in a halal way, in a right way, to return some income, he's not allowed to take from the profit. And if he's poor, then he takes what he needs. Alright? He takes what he needs if he's poor. وَإِنْ كَانَ غَنِيًّا فَلْيَسْتَعْفِفْ. But if he's not poor, then he's not to take anything, يعني in return. Alright? Okay. قال وليس له أن يوصي بما أوصى إليه به. طبعا this is not the right opinion. The opinion of الحنابلة of Ibn Qudama, he said, if someone delegate me to take care of his affairs after his death, he's saying, and I do not have the right to delegate someone else. Okay, my brother dies and he leaves. He said, my brother Fadi takes care of my affairs. I come, okay, his affair 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't have time. I'm not qualified, for example. I have to leave. I'm going to get locked up. Whatever the situation is, okay? So I feel I'm not qualified or fit to take care of this business, of these affairs, of his kids, of his wealth. Okay? Of course, there's no more wealth for him, but the wealth of who he leaves behind. Okay, and invest their money. I don't know about that. Ibn Qudama says, I have no right to delegate the affairs or the responsibility to someone else. But the right thing is I do. I do. Because there are a million things that can happen, prevent me from fulfilling my duties the way I'm supposed to. So if I feel I cannot do it, then I can delegate someone who's responsible to do, or who has experience to do that. قال ولا أن يبيع ويشتري من مالهم لنفسه. Now this delegate that I delegated to take care of the affairs, he has no right to buy or sell to himself. يعني they have a store. The father leaves his kids a store, furniture store. Okay? I want to invest and keep the business running. I don't have the right as a delegate to sell them something, sell the store something, or buy something from it. Because at the end, I'm the one who controls the price. So there might be muhabah. There might be some doing myself a favor. So to avoid all that, it's not permissible. ويجوز ذلك للأب فلا يلي مال الصبي والمجنون إلا الأب أو وصيه أو الحاكم. And the father is also can do that for his kids, the little kid, and يعني the father is the most qualified or the most entitled to be the delegate. Okay, to be the delegate. You say delegate for his kids, but he's still alive. Well, you are not. The father is not the only source of inheritance. Mother can die and leave them a lot of money. Okay, grandfather can die, uncles, whatever the situation, it depends. Okay, but the father, if he's alive, he's the most entitled for this position. Okay, he's the most entitled, of course, if he meets the requirements. قال ولوليهم أن يأذن للميز من الصبيان بالتصرف ليختبر رشده. The delegate takes care of the money for the kids until they reach the age of الرشد. الرشد يعني they can take care of their own affairs. So he becomes required to test the kids. So he's 12, he's not did not reach puberty yet, but let me test him. So I give him something to sell. So he goes, he sells it, very good. That means he can, when it comes to financial situations, he can manage. So then he has the right to have access to his money. But then, if it happened, like if I realize that he's falling down the crack and he doesn't know how to handle the money after he gets it, then I have the right to go back and put my hand on it. Alright? He says, وَالرُّشْدُ هُنَا الصَّلَاحُ فِي الْمَالِ فَمَنْ آنَسَ رُشْدَهُ دَفَعَ إِلَيْهِ مَالَهُ إِذَا بَلَغَ وَأَشْهَدَ عَلَيْهِ ذَكَرًا كَانَ وَأُنْثَى. So once you see the person who's wise enough to get his money, you give him his money, and you make sure you get witnesses to see that you gave him his money. So when he loses it, doesn't come back and claim that you never gave it. So make sure that you get someone to testify. قال فإن عاود السفه أعيد عليه الحجر, as we said. ولا ينظر في ماله إلا الحاكم. That is the issue of al-hajr, as we spoken about before. And by this we have finished the chapter of the transactions. Walhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Okay, this took us about 40 weeks, the transactions. Yani this is about the 40th lecture. Okay, so as you see, it's a lot of information and a lot of ilm, and without continuous mumarasa and learning more and more. And this is very brief. The issue that we discussed, a book this big. Okay, and we still were not done with the book, few pages. and you find يعني this book can go into volumes when they talk into more details. But here it's العمدة. العمدة يعني, in other words, the principles, and that is what we are discussing. So by this, alhamdulillah, we had finished the chapter of transactions, and we will start. I have to look into it, inshallah. Either the chapter of nikah, that is marriage, or the chapter of al-fara'id, يعني الإرث, inheritance, the rules of inheritance. We will see, inshallah, what will be the most appropriate to start with, unless you guys want to stop from this book for a little bit, talk about different topic, and then we come back to the book. It's up to you, yani, if that's what you want. We'll see, yani, inshallah, we'll stay in touch and we see what we want to do. قولوا قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد. جزاكم الله خير. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.